Forest of Shadows, Chapter 1, Into the Unknown. The summer air was thick with humidity as a group of friends trudged deeper into the heart of Ravenwood Forest. It was supposed to be a weekend of camping and adventure, a chance to escape the monotony of daily life. The forest, vast and uncharted, had a reputation for being one of the last wild places in the region, untouched by modern hands. There were 5 of them. Jake, the fearless leader of the group; Sarah, his girlfriend, always ready with a sarcastic comment; Mike, the prankster; Emily, who was more interested in photography than hiking; and Liam, the quiet one, who carried a thick book on botany and barely spoke. They had all known each other since high school, their bond forged through years of shared experiences. This trip was supposed to be another adventure in their collection of memories. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and denser, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. The atmosphere was eerie, the silence broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant bird calls. It was easy to get lost here, and the GPS on their phones had already stopped working an hour ago. We should set up camp soon, Jake suggested, looking at the sky through a rare break in the treetops. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist like living things. "Are you sure this is a good spot?" Sarah asked, glancing around nervously. "It feels off." Jake laughed and threw his arm around her. "Come on, Sarah, don't tell me you're scared. It's just a forest." "But it's not just a forest," Liam said quietly, almost to himself. Everyone turned to look at him, surprised that he had spoken up. "Ravenwood is old, ancient, even. There are stories about this place." "Stories? Like what?" Emily asked, her interest piqued as she adjusted the lens on her camera, ready to capture the moment. Liam hesitated before speaking, as if he wasn't sure whether to share. "My grandmother used to tell me about the Forest of Shadows. She said it's where the boundary between our world and another is thin. Things live here, things that aren't meant to be seen. People who come too close, they're never the same when they leave." "If they leave," Mike snorted, clearly unimpressed. "Seriously, Liam, that's just some old lady's ghost story. There's nothing out here but trees and wildlife." But even as he said it, there was an unease settling over the group. The forest seemed to be listening, the wind whispering through the leaves in a language none of them could understand. They set up camp in a small clearing, the only place where the underbrush wasn't too thick. The sun had dipped below the horizon by the time they finished pitching the tents, and the sky was a deep, bruised purple. They built a fire, its flickering flames casting dancing shadows around them as they sat in a circle, trying to shake off the discomfort that had settled over them. "All right, who's up for some ghost stories?" Mike said, grinning as he pulled a flashlight from his back and shone it under his chin, casting eerie shadows on his face. "No thanks," Sarah muttered, pulling her jacket tighter around herself as a chill settled in the air. "Come on, Sarah, don't be a buzzkill," Jake teased, but she shook her head. "It's not that," she said. "It's just ... Don't you feel like we're being watched?" Everyone went quiet, the crackling of the fire the only sound. They all felt it, that unsettling feeling of being observed by something just out of sight. It was the kind of sensation that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, a primal instinct warning you of unseen danger. Liam looked into the darkness beyond the fire's light, his eyes narrowing as he tried to make out shapes in the thick blackness. "Maybe we should keep the fire going all night," he suggested. Good idea, Jake agreed. Though his usual bravado was absent, they didn't tell ghost stories that night. Instead, they sat in near silence, listening to the strange noises that began to emerge from the forest as the night deepened. Unfamiliar calls, rustling that seemed to close for comfort, and once, a low growl that made their blood run cold. No one was willing to admit how unnerved they were, but the tension was palpable. As the hours passed, exhaustion began to set in, and one by one, they retreated to their tents. The fire was kept burning, a small comfort against the oppressive darkness that seemed to press in from all sides. But sleep didn't come easily. The night was alive with strange sounds, and each time one of them drifted off, they were jolted awake by the sense that something was creeping closer. Liam lay awake the longest, his eyes wide open in the darkness of his tent. He could hear the faintest sound, like the whisper of footsteps in the leaves. He held his breath, straining to listen. There it was again, closer this time. ... A shadow passed by his tent, and he froze, heart pounding in his chest. Whatever it was tall, much taller than any person. He watched as it moved past, heading toward the clearing. He heard Sarah's voice, soft and fearful. "Jake the Dot, did you hear that?" Jake's voice was tense. "Yeah, stay in the tent. Don't go outside." But the curiosity was too strong. Liam reached for the zipper of his tent, moving as quietly as he could. He had to see what it was. He had to know. As he slowly unzipped the tent, the cold night air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something metallic. He peeked out, his heart nearly stopping at what he saw. Standing just beyond the firelight was a figure, impossibly tall, its limbs too long, its face hidden in shadow. Its eyes glowed faintly, a dull, malevolent red. It stood there, watching, waiting. Liam's breath caught in his throat as the figure slowly turned its head, its gaze locking onto his. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, the only sound the deafening thud of his own heartbeat. And then, without warning, the figure moved swiftly, silently toward the tents. This is not the end. Follow for Chapter 2.